Welcome to Scale Her Up, the show for female business owners and leaders who want to grow profitable, sustainable businesses without burning out. I'm Dr. Brenda Hector. I'm a business growth specialist helping women develop themselves and their businesses so they can achieve their goals and enjoy the lifestyle they dream of. In each episode, you'll hear inspiring stories, honest conversations, and practical strategies to help you start, grow, or scale your business. If you're new here, hit follow so you don't miss an episode, and come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community to keep the conversation going. So I'm delighted today to have two guests on the show. I've got Alison Harper and Sara Huibregtse Van Loon, who are from Harper Clinical Psychology. Ladies, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with Harper Clinical Psychology. If it's not clear in the name, what is it that you do?
So I should probably say I was originally Harper Clinical Psychology, but we now have Harper Psychology. And the reason for that was I was a clinical psychologist who worked on my own for lots of years. Sara came along and did her training in CBT therapy. And so we now run with myself, who's the only clinical psychologist, potentially another one coming to join us, but everybody else is a CBT therapist. So we are just Harper Psychology, which covers both we've had counseling psychology as well. So we wanted to keep it more broad-based that we are psychologists because there's a huge amount of overlap in what we do.
Okay, so then the obvious question for me is, what's the difference and what does that mean for your customers?
And that's really interesting. I think that's what a lot of people ask. Jump in when you want to, Sara.
Yeah, I suppose traditionally clinical psychology was the main route into the provision of psychotherapy, whereas now there's very many routes into therapy. So Alison trained in clinical psychology. I don't really train.
I finished in 2000. So when I initially went in, it was your only option. You could be a CBT therapist, but only if you come from speech therapy or occupational therapy or physiotherapy. You couldn't do it just from the back of a psychology degree. So I did clinical psychology, but most of what we do, there's an enormous overlap. So the vast majority of problems we will see are anxiety, depression, or social anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, trauma therapy. And so it's more the overlap of what we do is huge. You get your initial training. For me, it was the 3-year doctorate. For you, it was the 3-year MSc. But I would say we know about 1% of what we know when we're initially qualified, and it is learning as you go. So there's a huge amount of overlap. It depends what you specialize in. So some psychologists will specialize every day in working with eating disorders. Some will specialize in trauma therapy. Some will specialize in children, some in adolescents, some in adults. So it really depends. If I suppose what you're asking is, what do we do? And I'm thinking, if you're coming as a client, what would you want? I want somebody who works every day in the problem that I have, who's a specialist in it, who's done their training in specific. So trauma therapy, have they done their trauma therapy training? Do they do it every day? But there's an enormous overlap in terms of what we do in psychology.
So I'm thinking if somebody's coming to you do you call them customers or patients?
Clients, usually.
Clients. Okay. So if somebody's coming to you as a client with something that they need help with, they maybe don't mind if you're a clinical psychologist or if you do CBT, as long as you're going to help them with the problem that they've got. Would that be right?
Yes. Yeah. I think for all that you can start off as a CBT therapist, you will do other training. So interestingly, I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm not accredited CBT. So I don't have accredited CBT training. I'm not a member of BABCP, which is the professional body for it. But that's changed over time. So I do a huge amount of CBT. I do it every single day in my practice. But equally so, a CBT therapist, maybe Sara is trained in EMDR or trauma therapy. So it's more looking at, I think it's less looking at the label, what somebody has, and far more looking at what their expertise is, what their experience is, what their training is. That's what I would be if I was a client. I'd want to know what somebody's As with anything else, you go and see a lawyer. I might not want to go and see a corporate lawyer about family law because they won't know about it. I want to know somebody's background and experience, what they know about things.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for explaining for me. So you started off as Harper Clinical Psychology, now you're Harper Psychology. Am I right in thinking that it's been on the go for 20 years?
Yeah, so I qualified in 2000 and worked in the NHS and started private practice around 2006. And then Sara and I worked together for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
For 10 years. And then it was us working. And then COVID came in and the NHS just found it really difficult to keep seeing people. And we saw lots and lots of an increase, particularly in adolescents, in OCD and in eating disorders. And we thought at that point we could help take on more people if we had staff, and we could do training and help with training. So that's when we grew from 2 to what's now 6.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it's not fantastic. The market needed that expansion, but it's a great business story then. So tell me about starting out then, Alison. Why did you go into private practice?
So the very honest answer, Brenda, was I had children that went to school, and when they're at nursery, you get 50 weeks nursery a year. When they go to school, you've got 14 weeks to cover the holidays. And so it was easier to have the flexibility that you can have of working in private practice. So I'd initially started saying, I'll never be working in private practice. And here I am working, and I thought I would go back to NHS and I teach. But I've remained in private practice, and then you learn that you can do lots of teaching in private practice. You can do lots of development. You can do lots more learning. So yeah, I've stayed.
And what about you, Alison, then? Well, Alison, Sara, your route to where we are now. Share your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I came to my undergraduate degree a bit later than most of it. So I initially went traveling a bit after I finished school, and lived in Italy and France, and then actually met someone from Edinburgh who was raving about it. And we decided to just move here on a whim. But in the meantime, I decided I'd really like to study psychology. I applied to study psychology here. And then, yeah, in my final year, I met Alison. She was my dissertation supervisor, my clinical dissertation supervisor. And yeah, and then Alison asked if I wanted to do some assistant psychology work. So I had a really good opportunity to do some behavioral interventions with clients out in the community and in their homes and things like that, which was just a really amazing experience. And then from there, went into CPT training, and then started working at the practice as a psychological therapist. So yeah, pretty straightforward, really, in a way. But yeah, it can be quite a difficult thing to crack into. So I think I was quite lucky to have met Alison when I did. It made the trajectory a little bit more easy for me.
I don't believe in luck. I think it's where preparedness meets opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
I like that.
Hard work. Lots of never give up. You get there.
Yeah.
So are you a co-owner, a director, or are you an employee, or how's that structure?
Yeah, so I'm an employee here.
Currently.
Yeah.
But so the plan is that we work as a collaboration. So at the minute there's 2 businesses. One's Harper Clinical Psychology and the other one is Harper Psychology. And effectively Harper Psychology is everyone but me. So what we're trying to do is move it over so that everybody else but me, I'll keep my own little business. I'm the only one doing medical legal, or of course the legal side. But everybody else will take over the practice and run it, which is not, I'm sure you're used to people with business models. I've never really had a business model, but what I have wanted to do is help people move on, help people train, help people, and show that you can actually work for yourself and it works. So the idea is that somehow, and we're just in the process of, and maybe you can help us with that, of how people just take over the business and keep it running. We've got Sara, but 3 of the therapists are just late 20s, with a long time to work. And it's a lovely idea that you can just pass on to leave the baton on, is what I like to call it. I've done my part of the relay, and as I get to the end, I just want to be able to pass the baton.
That's a beautiful example of leadership, Alison. You know, within Action Coach, we say that leaders are there to bring the people with them and let them go further.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's beautiful. Yeah. Though maybe
Yeah.
some sort of employee ownership thing going on there, or
It's not like I said, it's not a business idea. It's not a financial idea. I just want, as you would do, if you were employed, you would retire out of a business and a new person would be given your job. You've just done your part and you can pass over. And hopefully they will pass over with the same ethos and attitude that you just pass on to other people when you're not going to do it yourself. And then they can go in their own directions. It's now reminding me of the Barbie film, Stand Still and Hope the Next Generation go further than you do. Don't know if you've watched the Barbie film, but it's brilliant.
I might have to confess that I fell asleep during it, but
But it is that, yeah, you hope that people will go, you hope that people will progress and be able to come up with new ideas and develop further. And that's what's happening already.
I like the model actually, because in your line of work, effectively what you do is you sell your time, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It can make it difficult to grow more than each of the individuals within the organization because you're selling blocks of time to your clients. Yeah.
Yeah, you would hope that you build up a reputation. And if you've got a good model and a good ethos, then you get good feedback and people know as the name Harper Psychology is one that gets good feedback and where you're running ethically. So that's the idea, that you hope that everybody will, and everybody in our team has that same belief.
Coincidentally, I was talking to somebody just the other day who tells me that she's a client of yours and she was really singing your praises.
So,
Obviously, confidentiality and all that, I probably
Yeah.
can't mention who she was, but yeah, she's having a great experience with you. So that's
and yeah, you can say whatever you like, but we always have that. It sounds quite cold and clinical, but we always say we can't say who we may or may not see in practice. And that's, if we're outside on the street and we see someone, we cannot acknowledge them because that's a breach of confidentiality. So it's probably the strictest code that we have.
And when I'm hearing that as somebody who works with businesses and encourages referrals and reviews and testimonials and case studies and using that as your evidence to build trust and to help you win more clients, you can't do any of that then, can you?
I suppose we can to a certain extent. A lot of the referrals come through word of mouth, which is really lucky and great. But
that's the difficulty of somebody saying, "Oh, my friend Sara said come and see you," and we have to say we can't see you. We could say we do our jobs, but
we can't really acknowledge that person. But yeah, and then I suppose people have given testimonials very happily for our website, and again they're anonymized. And then recently, I think there was a recognition that on Google reviews, people are actually able to post anonymously. People are quite keen to do that as well for us. That's really good, actually. So there are workarounds, to a certain extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to understand the business and your journey. What you mentioned COVID, that seems to have been a bit of a turning point for you. I would guess that the actual lockdown time of COVID would have been tough going for a business like yours, or were you still allowed to operate?
there were only two of us at the start, and we were still using files, paper files. So we picked up our filing cabinets and moved and went on to Zoom the next day. And then obviously we thought, why have we got filing cabinets? Why are we not doing everything in a computerized fashion? So we didn't have the same blockage as NHS had all sorts of issues that they weren't allowed to use, whereas we didn't. We had the option to say to clients, we could not see you because we can't guarantee that Zoom, for example, is entirely confidential, but is the people get left without any help or use Zoom. So the option was theirs. And I don't think any one person said, I'm not transferring to Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp, phone calls. So we had no downtime at all. And then, of course, because other people couldn't see people, we were very busy.
That you were in demand,
And that allowed us to take those on.
Meet the demand.
And then how long was it we had to work from home? As quickly as we could, we got HEPA-A air filters into the office. And used massive distancing
Yes.
that we actually still use that people find a bit funny, but it's just from the old olden days.
COVID hang.
But we did. No, I suppose we were
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
So what have been the challenges then? What have been the difficult, because business isn't easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it. What have you had to overcome?
I think initially, because my initial thought was people will do some basic training and then go on to do their clinical psychology training, and a couple of them have done. But because of that, then we had, it happens in the NHS, you get a trainee and they move on after 6 months. But in private practice, people don't want you to stay for a year and a half and then have to change therapist. So I think one of the big things was learning that actually, much as you want to help train people, you have to it was good in the sense that it was much less expensive. It's less expensive to see a trainee than to see a qualified person. But actually continuity, I think, was what that does to service quality. And so I think it's lovely now that we have already established that nobody's going and people have their choices and they can keep those. So I think that was a challenge.
So what did you do then to make sure that you retained people so the customers got a consistent experience?
I think we stopped saying you have to. The thing is, stop the model of thinking you have to go on to do clinical psychology. And I thought, why am I doing that? Because you can stay as a CBT therapist. It's just a different professional route. So I suppose it was me actually just getting into my head that actually people are different and they're different training, and you can keep on doing extra training from whatever initial training you come from. And there was,
So was that a sort of a mindset of this is the way we've always done it?
Yeah.
And so we have to continue doing that. But actually, it's better for your business if you don't do it the way that it's always been done.
Yeah, more flexibility of thinking, I think, kicked in. It's what I'd say from a psychological perspective. And you thought, what are we doing? It's much better and better for clients, for it, lovely about it. And coming from the NHS, that's what happens all the time. You'll see somebody and then they move on. It's in your GP practice, you may see a GP and then move, but it's not the same if you're seeing.
Well, I mean, as we all know, the customer experience, if we want to call it, in the NHS is not all you would want it to be. So
sometimes it's fantastic, but it is about thinking for us, it's been better. So that was a learning.
Yeah. And the transitions actually were smooth. People knew that they got into the training maybe 3 months in advance or something like that. So there's lots of time to prepare the clients and everything and to do proper handovers and all of that. But it still is a disruption to the team and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's good that it's much more steady now, I think.
And the people would have to wind down or wind up to get started on a few people and step up. And that's for a small business, that's big financial pressure.
Yeah.
So,
that's my dog just opening the door and coming.
Oh, cute. No problem. We've got 2 therapy dogs in here always, actually, and they are sometimes the main act. So over and above here, it's whether the dogs can be in the room.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Absolutely frightening.
Does that help clients to open up, or what? Tell me about the therapy dogs.
I think massively with some people, if you're a teenager and you don't really want to have to go and see somebody, then it's a brilliant icebreaker to check. You will check all the time, do you mind dogs? And if they don't, you've had a few people. Sarah's got somebody and it says the name of the person with dogs. Just as a reminder that the whole point of the session is the dogs need to be there. But on our website, we've got lots of blogs, and one is on self-harm and suicidality. And the client, obviously anonymously, but very generously, said we could put on the story. And it was somebody that'd had a very severe attempt with major injuries and had come along initially very depressed and barely able to speak. And we've got one terrier who looks a wee bit like a teddy bear, and one collie. He's a one-eyed collie. And the collie jumped up on, we've got long sofas. Collie jumped up on the sofa, put his head on the person's lap and just looked up. And every week after that, the collie would do exactly the same thing. And the person at end of therapy said it was him who made the difference. But it's our collie's called Paddy. It was Paddy that made the difference. Paddy made me better. So yeah, when I say they're helpful, they're no pets are obviously, if people don't like dogs, they're not in the room. But for people, he can hear himself being
I thought he was
spoken
flying over to say. We might do.
But they're on the website for that reason of thinking if you like dogs. And Karen recently, she got a little picture made of the two dogs by a child she'd been seeing, and that was really important. So sometimes they're really important.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. I have 3 collies at my feet just now. So yeah, it definitely helped my kids through COVID for sure. Yeah. Business. The deciding to build a team then, and was it difficult to find the right people? Is it well, you mentioned people moving on and that being a challenge that you've overcome. Lots of people are thinking about scaling their business. Oh, but then I would have to have employees, and that comes with a headache. Does it?
I don't. Initially, people moving on was largely because we were encouraging them for other training until we worked that one out not to. Sometimes, as with anybody, there are ups and downs of it, but we've got a lovely established team now. And the benefits that you get from, if you're working within the team, you're always learning more. We all have lunch together for the reason that we can speak about things. We've got a group chat on which everybody listens to podcasts. So a new podcast will come out and you'll think, oh, have you heard this or have you seen that? And I suppose the strength of teams, particularly in psychology, is that you're not on your own and you can run things by other people. And it's that, I would say there are far more benefits than there are costs.
So do you wish you'd done it sooner?
Oh, gosh. Dara, over to you.
I don't think so. I think it made sense the way it went. Yeah, it was not something that I think I had really thought about, and it's not something that you had really been thinking about. But just when the demand arose, it made sense to do that. I think it's been lovely both ways. It was lovely working just as a two, and it's been lovely having a wider team. I can imagine working completely alone could be pretty isolating. Yeah, as Alison was saying, there's so much benefit from having a team around you. Just a quick chat or sharing resources or whatever, or even we get access to so much supervision from different sources, and it's just you're constantly learning and feeling supported and supporting others, and it's a really lovely way to work. But I don't know if I wish that it happened sooner. I don't think so.
It's hard to tell how things would have been, but it came about, I think, at the right time and with the right reasoning in mind of wanting to help. And so I think that was just a perfect opportunity that I probably would have thought, this is far too scary. Can't take it. I can't take on people. So I would have been there. So until you're on the other side and you think, oh, this has been fantastic.
Then because the demand was there, then it made sense.
Yeah, it's for a reason. Yeah.
So what does the future hold? Are you looking for further expansion? I think you mentioned that you would maybe step aside. Is that in the short term or the long term? What's the big goal for the next 12 months, let's say?
So it's the next 12 months. I don't know about the next 12 months per se, but we're having to think a little bit about what's the best way forward? What should we do? What are all the options? What does everyone want to do? Because there's people of different ages working here as well, different stages of their career. And it's just a lot of open conversation at the moment around what that could look like. But I think everyone's keen to continue to work together in a collaborative way, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, and I think I'm mid-50s now. I won't be here in 5 years' time. And it's thinking, how do we pass it over? Really excitingly, we've got somebody who went away to do the training who's coming back now. So it's forever. I feel like I'm passing the baton over, and it's for the others to think, okay, how do we want to keep on working together? How do we want to develop? Do we want to do different things, or even the specialisms? Do we want to specialize in different things than we're doing at the minute? But I feel like it's that if you do it, progression planning, isn't it? If you do it ages in advance, then people have time to all think, how do we want to do this?
Yeah.
So I suppose it is all up in the air for the minute. But I think what everybody's agreement is, we want to all keep on working together under the umbrella that is Harper Psychology, and have a service with a good reputation that works on an ethical basis, that people, is a kind of a brand that you think just going to some unknown person, this is who they are. So the way in which everybody else does that is that I can pass it on to them to see how they want to do it.
Yeah.
And what about the market then? Do you see that actually slowing down anytime soon, or is demand still high? I'm just thinking as a societal question rather than a business question, probably.
Yeah, you get natural fluctuations. You get quieter in summertime when everybody's away on their holiday. You suddenly get busy at different times of the year.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't tell, but we've always been lucky in terms of it staying fairly busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you were always going to have a business, Alison? Was it written in the stars, or was it?
No,
No.
I didn't ever think when I went in and I started working, I was going to be NHS forever. And I loved working. I loved working. I was primary care initially, and then I was a day patient unit for people with severe and enduring mental health problems. I loved them both. The reason that took me into private practice was that somebody had asked me to see somebody, and I was like, no, I just work in the NHS. And then as it came up to kids going to school, my younger one in particular, he wasn't going to do the holiday clubs. You just think, I need to look for something else. So I initially went out thinking, I'll work a tiny bit while the kids are little and see what happens. And then it grew.
So actually, it was another society's not built for two parents to work full time, is it?
So if you've got children who love tomato camps and sports clubs, and you can send them off, and some of my friends have children but if you don't have a child that wants to go there and who's going to be happy in an activated camp or a sports club through the summer, you need to think again and just be a bit more flexible.
Yeah, it comes up a lot in these conversations that women that have started their own business because they needed the flexibility for their family.
So that
very common. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was exactly
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. A question for both of you then. You can take it in turns. If you could go back and meet your 18-year-old self, what would you say to her?
See, I think that's easy. I would say to her, you'll get there. Just keep going. You just believe that you'll get there. Keep working. Because I think back when you're 18, because I'd wanted to be a clinical psychologist since I was 14 and had been told it's really difficult and nobody gets in. And it's very easy to think it's very difficult. Nobody gets in. So to keep on thinking. So I would have just said, don't worry, you'll get there.
That's nice.
Which is really nicely what one other person said to me. And then you learn.
Really disappointed with all those people that couldn't just encourage you to follow your dreams, but tried to
lots of people are
saying,
saying, it's far too competitive. And that's what I tried to do on my way through. I'd say to people, go, you'll get there. I remember once I was in a parents' evening and the teacher said, you're a clinical psychologist. My daughter was going to do that, but you can't get in because it's too competitive. And I said, oh, get her to come and chat. I've heard that one. And managed to say to her, and she is now a clinical psychologist.
Oh.
So I suppose mine would just be believe in yourself and you'll get there. So what's yours be?
I think mine would probably be something along the lines of, I think because when I was 18, I didn't have a clue which direction to go in. And I remember feeling worried about that. Everyone around me seemed to know what direction they were going in and were moving in that direction. And so I suppose it would be something along the lines of, don't worry, you'll figure it out. And maybe you need some more life experiences before you are ready for that step. Something like that.
Those are great pieces of advice. And I think they're not just for the 18-year-old versions of yourselves, but for anyone at any stage in their life, probably.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at yours, actually. Alison is the most encouraging person in the world.
But from that starting point of thinking, then you get there and you think, oh, I need to remember that. But yeah.
As the most encouraging person in the world and the person sitting next to her, what advice would you have for other women looking to start or scale a business?
I'm quite a risk averse person, I think, naturally. And I don't think Alison's not really. Alison's much more positive thinking. We'll take a chance. And so I suppose I've learned a lot from Alison, and I think I've settled a bit more in the center. So I suppose just if you're really keen, if you're really passionate about it, just take the first step and the rest will probably just work out eventually.
Take
You-
the
Um,
You're totally right, but to do something that you're
Mm.
passionate about. Whatever you do, you're going to be doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you do something you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like you're at work, really.
yeah.
I've written both of those down.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Is there anything else that I should have asked you, ladies? Anything that you want to add to the conversation?
I think if there's any way, I heard somebody this morning talking still about the stigma of going for therapy. And I just think, oh my goodness, nobody has a stigma about going for physiotherapy. Nobody has a stigma about going to the dentist. Nobody has a stigma if they need an operation about going through it. And I just think we're taught so many things when we're at school. We're taught maths and English, and we're not taught how do you navigate emotions and how do you control. And there doesn't need to be any, I wish there was less stigma about it.
Yeah.
So I think if there's anything that we can do to reduce the stigma and saying this is no different, and I always say mental health is like dental health is like physical fitness. If you want to be physically fit, you've got to exercise. If you want good dental health, you've got to brush and floss. And if you want good mental health, you've got to challenge your thinking and understand what keeps good mental health. And I see no stigma whatsoever. Sara was talking earlier about supervision. Throughout our working lives, we will always have supervision. Are we doing the right thing? Have we done the best thing? Is there anything else we could have done? And that's for reassurance. Emotional support is the single biggest buffer against anxiety and depression that there is. And it's trying to move away from can we stop the stigma of I've gone to see a psychologist and just think that's great. It's absolutely no different. My younger daughter's training in physiotherapy. My elder is medicine. And it's just the thinking, why is it seen? If we could change anything, it would be that you don't need to not say where you're going, because it's exactly the same as a physiotherapist or a dentist or a PT. Yeah, they're opposite.
I'm thinking about the business owners that I meet. I think for a lot of people, being in business can be very stressful, and they can find it difficult. They can be more anxious. Or do you see a lot of business owners? Are there any common trends that you see with business owners?
I would say we see a range of people in a range of, and for a range of different reasons. If you're seeing somebody for trauma therapy, it may not be at all related to business, or if you're seeing an adolescent, it wouldn't be. But I think maybe as a business owner, you can sometimes feel a wee bit more isolated, like you're the top responsible person. And maybe we see lots of people in positions of responsibility where they feel like they're on their own. And I think but I know business support groups and business coach, that really helps people. So I suppose it's that sense of if you're isolated as a business owner, then getting a support network is really helpful. And there are loads of, you'll know about it than we do, lots of them around.
But I mean, what I do, networks, and what you guys do, it can all help.
Yeah.
I suppose equally you can see some business owners who they might feel more control over their environments, whereas people that are employed by a company maybe don't have as much control, right?
Yeah,
and so
true.
the maybe more likely to lead to burnout, for example. So I don't know if I've seen a direct pattern in either direction.
Then, excuse me, what can business owners and employers do to support their staff then in terms of mental health?
Well, there's so much they could do. Some businesses will have running groups on looking at mental health and coaching. Oddly enough, my clinical doctorate was on factors affecting sickness absence.
Yes.
As what you find is under pressure, people become much, much more punitive, listen less, and put in, and that doesn't help businesses. So, sickness absence, if you're off 3 times and you're suddenly under disciplinary, is really not helpful if you've been off for 3 different reasons. So it's trying to it's trying to be non-judgmental and supportive and encouraging you get rather than punitive measures. So it's everything we know about emotional support, listen and help, guide and encourage.
Yeah. And giving people ownership over their work, I think,
Yeah.
as well, so that they feel like it's theirs rather than maybe being micromanaged to within an inch of their lives, having to follow someone else's style of working when actually their own style might be just as effective and might make them a lot happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're back to the stigma around support in mental health and talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you, lady. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We've run out of time. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. That's been really interesting to speak to you, actually. It makes you think.
So here's something else to make you think. Only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are 5 times more likely to scale their business past £1 million in turnover than women. I used to say if, but now I say when we match them, we'll add £250 billion to the UK economy and create millions of jobs. And that's why Scale Her Up exists, to change those numbers one business at a time. Thanks for listening today. If this episode helped you, please follow the show, leave a review and share it with another female business owner who needs to hear it. Join our Scale Her Up Facebook community and connect with me, Brenda Hector, on social media, and with Alison and Sara as well. I love hearing which episodes resonate with you. You're capable of more than you think. Keep going. We're scaling up together.